My nose is all stuffy. I feel like I can barely talk, but obviously this video just cannot wait, and I don't want to wait. I'm excited. So it is what it is. I apologize. But God is saying it's time to come up higher. This morning, I just kept on seeing plane after plane after plane, small planes, big planes. It was one plane, like a commercial sized plane, and it was riding so low. And I'm like, why is this plane riding so low like this? And there's really no airport that I'm close to. Then I was on the phone with one of my sisters and we were talking. In the middle of her saying something, she was like, oh, there goes a plane. Like, I feel like that's confirmation. And when she said that, I heard God say, come up higher, come higher. And since earlier today, I've been sensing that in my spirit. There's also this person from my past that I just keep on seeing in a vision. And when I see him in my vision, he's just like standing there in complete awe, mouth wide open, as if like I just truly cannot even believe my eyes type of thing. And I got the sense that he was looking at me, but I didn't understand why. About 2 days ago now, I was reading one of my journals that I had wrote back in February. And it's like everything that I was talking about, everything that God was speaking to me about then is coming around full circle now. One of the things that I had wrote was talking about the light switch surprise again. And I wrote like a definition that I saw on this website. And it says, a character enters a location and is dark. The first course of action is to switch on a light, and surprise in the room is an unexpected sight. The definition of switch is a device making or breaking the connection in an electric circuit, a program that activates or deactivates a certain function, change the position, direction, or focus of. Adopt something different in place of, a change from the usual, to make a shift or change, to turn from one track to another. Another thing that God wants me to talk about that I wrote is a vision that I had. And in this vision, I walked into this room or like an apartment. I walked into a dark apartment and could barely see anything. Then a door slammed behind me, signifying the end of old things or a switch/change. Before I could find the light switch, the vision ended. I just cut on Radical Expectations, which is a Sarah Jakes video. And the first thing she says is, I feel like God. I don't know what we're getting ready to walk into, but I want to make sure I'm in the room. Then this is something that I wrote on Valentine's Day. I don't know how to feel right now. I want to cry so bad, but my joy is so overwhelming. I feel so scared, like something is about to pop out at me, but in a good way. I keep getting the chills. I feel so anxious. I've slept 3 or 4 hours in the last 24. I want to lay down, but I can't. I keep seeing myself standing on stage with the beautiful red curtains, which I have a video about that. So beautiful they almost sing. I literally feel like I'm standing on that stage, like real life. I'm shaking right now. I feel like any moment the curtains will draw back and I'm scared. And this is the night/morning of my flight to Virginia so I could take my practical exam, the last exam for me to get my license. And this was the night/morning of my flight to Virginia. I was going to go take my practical exam for cosmetology, which is the last test before you can get your license. And I remember I was like, I really need to sleep. I want to, be rested. I didn't want to just stay up all night and then get on my flight and be tired and all that. But I literally just could not sleep and I was having chills. I felt, like what I said in that journal, I truly felt that. It truly felt like something was just about to pop out at me. I was afraid. I felt scared. It just felt like something huge, something past all understanding was either happening or about to happen. And I just feel like it's just so sweet, the fact that This is on Valentine's Day, you know. This was something special that God was doing for me, showing me, allowing me to feel. So the next part I'm going to read is after I took my test and I passed and everything. I said, hey, I passed. I don't know how I got a 91, but me and God did that for real. 91, 10, okay? Like, it's just all coming back around. I kept saying, God, I don't care if it's a 75, just let me pass. He said, aim higher. God had told me when I took the exam the last time, because that was my third time taking it. And the second time when I took it, I made a 59. I'm not going to go into the whole backstory about the situation with me taking my exam, why I had to go to Virginia and all that. But long story short, the school that I went to, this person was like trying their best to like sabotage the situation looking back. And again, it's not so much as a personal thing, but a spiritual thing. I didn't know nothing about how to pass this test. All I had was the book and YouTube. I didn't have nothing else to go off of, really. While I was taking the exam the second time, God told me, the next time you take this exam, you're going to pass. So that's why I said, I don't care if I make a 75. I just want to pass. And I don't know, I think I mentioned this before in one of my videos, but I didn't really do much different that time versus the last time I had took it. It was certain things that I had did a lot better on, but overall, like, I still made a lot of mistakes. It just truly was no way that I should have passed, I feel like. And it seemed like so many people were in there making mistakes, just mistake after mistake after mistake. People were dropping stuff. I was dropping stuff. I was nervous. I was shaking. Every time the proctor, I think it's called, would come around to grade me, watch me, I would literally be standing up there shaking because I'm just like, man, I want to pass this exam. I'm tired of wasting my money coming out here. I'm trying to go home with the victory. But I just kept holding on to the fact that God told me this time I was going to pass. So lo and behold, I get a 91. And I'm like one of the last people that they called to get my result paper. It wasn't just me that passed. Every single person that I tested with passed. And I remember I was praying. I'm like, God, not only do I want to pass, not only do I want the victory, but do it for each and every person in this room. Something else I said was, God been talking to me since I got on that plane. I can't remember everything, but what I do remember is when the plane took off, he said and kept saying, never again, and had me to claim it. He was literally shouting this at me, never again, never again. I didn't know what he was talking about. I'm like, are you talking about never again while I had to come out here? I didn't know, but I was like, okay, I claim it, Lord, never again. Then I said, he started rambling off. I was like, slow down, Lord. He was so excited. I've never heard God so happy and excited. So happy. He was like having a full-blown conversation. You know, like when somebody is just like going off and they telling you this, they telling you that, they telling you this. They all excited, all happy. And it's like, slow down. I'm trying to process what you telling me. He sounded like a little kid. He just sounded so happy, so happy. Then I said, as the plane was getting ready to land, a baby started crying. I felt in my spirit new life, new beginnings, new birth. Then when I was on the flight here, there was a child crying and screaming almost the whole flight. I kept thinking, why is she crying? This plane ain't stopping. She was so afraid for seemingly no reason. It made me think about how looking back, I was so scared, headed fast in divine direction, but not able to see it. It says, God also was saying, you've joined me up in the clouds. They were so beautiful. Oh my God. I know that all of that means God is calling me higher, man. It's time to accelerate. It's my turn now. The other night, the night before I came, I was wondering, asking God, how does a butterfly know when it's time to come out its cocoon? He said, I call them out. I'm calling you out. Not to mention, it's a whole cocoon stuck on the patio door outside. It's been raining hard. It was storming the other day, a whole tornado warning. And this cocoon has been there for like 2 or 3 weeks at this point. I kept looking at it, but I didn't know what type of insect was in that cocoon. And so one day it just caught my eye when I opened up the patio door and I looked at it. I got a good look and I could tell that it was a caterpillar. You could see the impressions of the caterpillar's legs, the little feet, the body. And I was like, wow, what are the odds of that? So like I said, I read this like 2 days ago. And then today, just a few minutes ago, I was watching this video, which I show a screenshot of the video. And so she started talking concerning your enemies. And she said the window of opportunity is closed and that they forfeited their right to join you. And she said that God is calling you higher. And when she said that, it was just instant confirmation. And so I just paused the video. I couldn't even listen to the rest at that point. It reminded me of this vision that I had. And in this vision, there were select people that have talked about me, people who have mistreated me, people who I know that the enemy used to hurt me, try to destroy me, try to essentially break me down. They all had this look on their face, the same look that I said that this person earlier in the video was looking at me like, just mouth wide open, in utter shock, utter amazement. It was so dark where it was that we were, like, it's almost as if I couldn't see nothing but them in their faces. Then all of a sudden I started lifting up off my feet and I was like, wait a minute, where am I going? What's going on? Type of thing. But I got the sensation, like I felt in my spirit that God was accelerating me, or that God was calling me higher. And I know that that vision represented that these people are all have to watch. These people don't have a choice but to see. And so God just starts speaking. Oh, man. One of the things that he said was, don't you feel the shift? And when he said that, I felt in my spirit how there's some people around me. There's some people that I hadn't talked to, whether it was months back, a couple weeks back, a couple of days ago. And it's just the energy that they give off, almost as if they're trying to put something in my face, or they're trying to make me feel less than. It's almost like, don't forget where you came from. Don't forget that you less than me. Don't forget that you under me. It's like a spirit of arrogance, a spirit of pride. Although on the outside, that's what they portray, on the inside, it's really fear. Because those spirits, those demons operating in these people, they never wanted to see you rise. It doesn't matter if you was in love with them. It doesn't matter if they were your best friend. It don't matter if they were a parent. It doesn't matter if they were a business partner. These spirits are not happy. All of a sudden, I started sensing or feeling like these people think that I now think that I'm better than them. But in all actuality, the enemy feels threatened. The enemy feels the same rejection that he tried to cast against you through these people. And another thing that he was speaking to in regards to feeling the shift is the fact that all of a sudden, it just feels like there is a knowing. Nothing around you may look like you in the promised land. Nothing around you looks promising, but at the same time, it feels like you're already there. It feels like I already have everything that God has told me, has been speaking to me, has been showing me. Another thing that God has said to me was, I stepped away from you so that I could go and draw back the curtains. The same curtains that I was talking about on Valentine's Day. In the video that I said I had pre-recorded in the last video that I made, I was talking about all of a sudden feeling spiritually dry, or feeling as if looking back like God was not as close to me as he had been. And after he said that, it truly made sense why it was that I was feeling the way that I was feeling. Because it was like all of a sudden I started feeling all this spiritual warfare. All of a sudden everything started feeling dark around me, started feeling dead around me. I was having these old thoughts, old feelings, looking back on old things, old behaviors, old sins. And I remember, like, during that time, I kept on saying to God, I'm ready for you to come from behind the clouds. God had showed me in the sky one day, which I'll insert a picture of that, of these beautiful clouds, and the sun was behind the clouds. And you could see that the sun was behind the clouds, but at the same time, it looked like the clouds were holding the sun back. You could see the rays around the sun, but you couldn't see the actual sun. And when I looked through my phone to find this picture, I started seeing a whole bunch of pictures that I took of this same thing, the clouds holding the sun back, or the clouds masking the sun in a way where sometimes you couldn't even see it at all, but at the same time, it was evident what you were looking at. And God had me to make a community post about the first picture that I mentioned. And I can't even remember exactly what I said in the post, but it was something along the lines of God showing me through that I've been holding back. You felt stuck. You felt like everything around you was inactive because I've been holding back. Not out of punishment, not because I don't feel like you're ready. Yes, I've been putting the finishing touches on things, the final touches on things, but I've been holding back. Man, I hear him saying right now, I've been holding back to the point that I cannot hold back any longer. That once I move, the floodgates of heaven are going to open. As I heard that lady talk about that in the video, I started hearing God saying, come up higher, come up higher. And I seen him with like a little toy airplane in his hand. And he looked like a kid flying around the airplane, just looking at it in amazement, looking at it like it was bringing him so much joy, bringing him so much pleasure, just like a kid. My son used to love airplanes and helicopters, and he would do the same thing, just flying it around. And in the vision that God had gave me, he extended his hand out to fly the plane as high as he could, which is also a full circle moment. Because back on Valentine's Day, when I took this flight, before I got on the plane, God kept saying, come up in the clouds, come up in the clouds, come join me in the clouds. Or he would say, come up here with me. And another thing that God wants me to mention, I took like 3 trips out to Virginia at this point. And each time I'm glued to the window, I'm looking at the earth, I'm looking at the sky, looking at the clouds. Sometimes I'll look down to do something on my phone or something, and God will say, look, look. And I'll look out the window and it'll be like a beautiful scenery, just something absolutely beautiful. It's just something about being on a plane that shows you God in a way that is just beyond imagination. But when I took this last trip out there on Valentine's Day, I fell asleep on the plane, and all of a sudden God was like, look, look, look. I got up and I looked out the window, and it was like this ball of light, like an orb or something. And it was following alongside the plane. And the way that it was positioned, if you weren't intentionally looking at it, looking for it, chances are you couldn't see it. I don't know what that was. God didn't, well, I hear him saying right now, it was my spirit, which makes perfect sense because as I'm looking, as I'm watching this thing, God says, you are now up in the clouds with me. You have joined me in the clouds. Another thing that God said to me was, you feasted off the crumbs of my love. You were faithful with only crumbs of me. I hid myself from you like hide and seek. And that reminded me of what God had told me a while back. You don't know me, but I know you. And now I will show you who you clung to this entire time. What God was saying about hide and seek, feasting off the crumbs of his love, is that God purposely only gave you little bits and pieces, little crumbs of him, little crumbs of his love. And through this, he was proving you faithful. He was proving you diligent. Because if this word is for you, you have trusted God even when you didn't see him, even when you didn't feel him. Trusted God even before he ever spoke to you, even before the visions, even before the dreams, when it didn't make sense, when it was uncomfortable, when it was no longer cute, when it was no longer fun, when it was no longer exciting. You trusted God. You were faithful to God in your lack season. Some of y'all never even experienced a good season. Some of y'all have never even experienced a thriving season. And God says it was never to hurt you. It was never to harm you. Through this, he built your faith. Through this, he built your perseverance. Through this, he built your endurance. And now, just like he said, I will show you who you clung to this entire time. The word cling means remain persistently or stubbornly faithful to. Be overly dependent on someone emotionally. adhere or stick firmly or closely to, be hard to part or remove from. God says, you know the God that wounds, but now you shall know the God that heals. Now you should know the God that binds up. And this is in reference to Job 5:18. For he wounds, but he also binds up. He injures, but his hands also heal. Another thing that he showed me, spoke to me when he was talking about hide and seek. I remember it was one Christmas and I was like in the 7th, 8th grade. And Sierra had put out her first album. And I used to love Sierra. I used to study the videos in my room dancing. Like, I thought I was the 1-2-step queen. You cannot, like, you cannot tell me that I was not the 1-2-step queen. So when I seen that she was releasing an album, I wanted the CD. That was like the top thing that I wanted that year. I remember for my birthday, for Christmas, a lot of times my mom would like hide these gifts in certain places and be like, oh, go look here, go look there. See if you see this over there. See if you see that over there. And I go looking for something and I just stumble upon this gift or this present. And so when it came to this CD, I remember vividly, she told me, go look in the couch for the remote. And so I'm like, okay. But as I'm walking to the couch, I just knew that that CD was going to be in that couch. I had no reason to believe that. Looking back in my spirit, I knew that that CD was going to be in that couch. So I'm looking, and lo and behold, it's in the couch. And I remember how excited I was, how happy I was. Like, I was elated. In the same sense, God is saying that he placed himself in certain areas, behind certain doors, and you didn't know what you were my God. You didn't know what you were looking for. You didn't know what you were searching for. You just knew that you needed him. You just knew that you needed his love, his comfort, his joy, his peace. As you just carried out through life, as you experienced hurtful moments, experienced the lows of life, all of a sudden you stumbled upon God. All of a sudden you went to bed crying but woke up with peace. All of a sudden you went from looking high and low for a job to getting a random phone call, getting a random email from somebody that you didn't even apply to. All of a sudden you went from reading the Bible, not understanding it, to God giving you wisdom, to God giving you discernment. Bit by bit, you seen God more and more. Bit by bit, he left little traces of crumbs of his love, crumbs of who it is that he is. Lastly, I was talking to my sister about this earlier today. I had woke up like at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was just like, I gotta go get me a Dr. Pepper. And I'm just like, why do I want a Dr. Pepper this bad? And so I go and I get it. And looking back, I know it was because God was trying to show me this. Other than this, I wouldn't even have went to the gas station today. But on my way out of the gas station, this toy had caught my eye. And all I saw was a pretty blue dress. And I heard a Cinderella story. And I was like, what's that Cinderella? I went back and lo and behold, it was. So I was just standing there staring at this toy. And I'm like, wow, okay. Then I ended up coming home and I watched this prophecy concerning marriage. And then I ended up coming home and I watched this prophecy concerning marriage. And the lady was talking about a dream that she had that was based upon the story of Cinderella. In the conversation with my sister, I never mentioned it to her, but she started talking about being married to God, God being your first husband type of thing. And then fast forward tonight, after I watched this video, after God is speaking all these different things to me, I'm walking upstairs and the spirit just fell over me and I seen myself in this beautiful wedding gown. Previously, God had showed me a vision of me and Jesus having our first dance. And in this vision, I had on this beautiful dress. And as I'm walking up the stairs tonight, I had this same dress on, but I was finally able to really see the dress. And it was absolutely beautiful. You could put all of the top designers in one room and nobody would ever be able to recreate this dress. It was truly heavenly. It had a whole bunch of embroidered designs, sparkles. It had literal gemstones on the dress, real genuine crystals on the dress, colors I've never even seen before. It was glistening and sparkling in God's glory. And once I got to the top of the stairs, I felt as though I had met Jesus, like I met my groom. And God says to me, when God calls a man and a woman to be married, as much as they feel like they already know the spirit of their spouse before they meet them, once they meet them, they realize it's so much more to who they are, their ways, their traits. And although God spends so much time showing you his spirit, showing you her spirit, there is still time needed for the two of you to get acquainted with each other before you are married. God says there's a point in time in the courtship that the prophecy that he gave you concerning your spouse is confirmed. And God is saying, in the same sense, if this video is for you, you have met your first husband. Whether you are male, whether you are female, God has become your first husband. You have become acquainted with God. You have become acquainted with his love. Although you don't know the half, although it may feel like you aren't as far along as God sees you to be, you have truly came up higher with him. When God is saying to come up higher, this time he's not talking about come up higher mentally. He's not talking about come up higher in your faith. He's not talking about come up higher in your spirit. He's calling you out. He's calling you up there in the clouds with him. He's calling you out of your cocoon. Another thing that God mentioned to me about the cocoon that's attached to the patio door. People see the butterfly and think or assume that the transition was smooth, that the transition was easy. A butterfly has to fight its way out of that cocoon. A lot of times, a butterfly dies trapped in the cocoon. God left you for a brief second to see if you would be willing to fight your way out of that cocoon. And now he says it's time to fly.